What if I told you? A secret brotherhood once rose from the forests of western Igboland and took on one of the most powerful empires in the world. Not with guns, but with unity, strategy, and something deeper than fear. This is not fiction. This is the story of the Ekumeku War. In the late 19th century, as the British tightened their grip on what is now Nigeria, something unexpected happened in the Anioma region. A movement was born, not in palaces, not in cities, but in the shadows of thick forests. They called it Ekumeku, meaning silent thunder, and when it struck hard. The British came with treaties, taxes, and control, but the people of Anioma saw through it. They refused to bow. Instead, they formed a powerful resistance network. Villages united, warriors initiated, messages passed in secrecy. The Ekumeku weren't just fighters. They were a brotherhood, bound by oath, driven by one goal: protect their land, their culture, and their freedom. But here's the twist. They didn't fight like a conventional army. They used guerrilla tactics, ambushes, night raids, and deep knowledge of their terrain. The forest became their shield and their weapon. At this point, you have to ask yourself, could you stand against an empire with nothing but courage and unity? If this story is already blowing your mind, don't forget to like, comment, and share, because stories like this deserve to be heard. The British were frustrated. Every time they thought they had crushed the resistance, Ekumeku would rise again, stronger, smarter, more elusive. Villages were burned, leaders were hunted, but the spirit of Ekumeku unbreakable. This wasn't just war, it was identity versus erasure. The people weren't just defending land, they were defending who they were. And here's what most history books won't tell you. The war didn't last a year or 5. It stretched across decades, from the 1880s into the early 1900s. That's over 20 years of resistance, 20 years of refusing to surrender. Eventually, the British adapted. They increased military pressure, introduced harsher tactics, and targeted the very structure of the Ekumeku society. Slowly, the resistance weakened, not because they lacked courage, but because they were up against an empire with endless resources. By the early 1900s, the Ekumeku movement had been largely suppressed. But here's the truth. They were never truly defeated, because their story lived on. Today, the Ekumeku are remembered not just as warriors, but as symbols of unity, resilience, and defiance. They proved something powerful, even in the face of overwhelming force. A people who stand together can shake an empire. So the next time you walk through history, remember the silent thunder that once roared through the forests of Anioma. If this story inspired you, educated you, or gave you chills, go ahead and like this video, drop a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Because history isn't just something we read, it's something we must keep alive. And trust me, there are more hidden stories like this waiting to be told.